Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Welcome back, friends, to the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. This is your host, Martine Williams. I'm also your CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer, and I can guarantee you on any episode, you will find moments of inspiration, moments of encouragement, and maybe sometimes a little bit of a push. And you may feel that a little bit today on today's episode. So I just got back from an event, and it's been since 2019 that I attended an in-person personal or professional development conference. And I was really excited to go. It was one of my favorite cities in Nashville. I love live music if you didn't know that already. And so just gave me the opportunity to hang out with some really cool people, to connect with some new people, and to kind of get inside a community that honestly I just heard about probably about a year ago, but didn't really do any investigating, didn't really think much of it. Just kind of like, oh, okay, it's just another, company on mission, and just never really dove into it. And so when my friend Becca invited me to be her guest at this event, I'm like, Nashville, twist my arm. Personal, professional development, in-person conference, twist my arm a little harder. And to get to spend some time with her. So I was there last week, and I thought for this episode, I would share with you just some of my takeaways from attending that event, maybe some updates on me and where I'm heading in 2023. And just kind of have a candid talk with you. And hopefully it will encourage you to start thinking right now about 2023. I will say, coming back from this event, I feel really good about having 7 specific goals that I'm going to work towards in 2023. Like, I'm ahead, I feel like, when normally it's like, okay, January, I'm trying to think about these goals, or I maybe have some in my head, but to actually have these written down, some, an action plan in place just feels really good. And honestly, last year, I was kind of in that transition and season from, a 15-year career with 31 gifts into the season of rest. And so I didn't really set a lot of goals. Really, my only goals for last year was rest and to be still and hear from God and what He wanted next for me, and to really grow in my relationship with Him again. And I can say I successfully did both of those things. And so while I didn't have any big career goals, I'm excited to kind of start getting back into that thinking, and to start set some, not just professional, but also some personal goals for 2023. So the name of the event was called Oolapalooza, and that's just super fun. And again, I had never heard of the Oola guys or the Oola mission or the Oola framework really until this last year. And apparently these two guys, Dave and Troy, have been riding around the country in a 1972 like VF surf van. It's super cool. And maybe you've seen them on tour. Maybe you've seen them and you know what I'm talking about, but I had never seen that. I'm sure they've been to South Carolina, but I did not know about it, didn't see it. They have an incredible story and how they are driving around the country and collecting dreams. And so they basically have these little, they almost look like those "Hello, my name is" name tags, but they're circular, and they're different colors. And they really are on mission to help people find balance in an unbalanced world. I think we can all agree that we live in a very unbalanced world. And if you followed me for any amount of time, I'm not a huge fan of that word balance, because I believe we can get trapped seeking out balance in all of those areas of our life, but we can find harmony. But, I'm not going to get hung up on it when I'm going to an event like this and this is their mission, because they have a framework and they have a system, like what they offer and what they kind of took us through over 2 days. It was not a secret. It was a system. And it was really cool to kind of walk, to be immersed in that process and to see on that van all of these sticky notes of people's dreams for the 7 F's. So the 7 F's of Oola are fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun. And I take my clients kind of through a similar process with doing kind of a life audit on the 10 key areas of your life. So it's kind of the same process. They just kind of put a couple of those ones together and really help you to focus on the 7 F's of life. And so people have these, just their dreams and goals just stuck onto this van for, finance and field and fitness. And then, being able to meet these people who've been immersed in the Oola life, the Oola way, and seeing their dreams come to fruition, hearing their stories, all the stories of hurt and heartache and yet victory, by taking the time to write out dreams and goals on these 7 key areas and having the accountability of this group was super inspiring and heartbreaking at the same time. Like the second day was really kind of heavy emotionally. And even though at the end, we kind of after you go through this process, and maybe skipping ahead a little too much, but after the 2 days and after you've gone through this process, that they've written 3 books on, I'll put the links to the books in the show notes. So one is for women, one is for Christians, and I think the other one is just the general Oola, find balance in an unbalanced world. But you can find the method in there, and I'll put a link also to their other resources, because it's an interesting business with 2 different ways you can get involved in the company. But anyway, so the 2 days were about kind of walking you through the process, like the 7 F's. And then at the end, they gave everybody like a really cute surfboard that has Live Oola on it with the picture of like an image of like the bus that they've been driving around the country in. And then they gave you the stickers of those 7 key areas. And you went through this process, and then you narrow it down to 7 goals and you stick them on your surfboard. So at the end of the conference, they had anybody who was willing to come up and share, like, what's your one? If you accomplish this one, they call it the Oola one. If you accomplish this one thing in 2023, it will have just a dramatic impact on your life, on your goals, on where you want to go. And so at first it was like just a few people seemed to kind of raise their hands that they wanted to come up on the stage. And then there was like this long line, like people were just inspired by hearing other people's stories. And so they go up there and they share, where they're from, and then they take their sticker, and they stick it on the surfboard that Troy was holding on to. And one of the things that they shared, and I think this is really important for you to hear, is where you are is not who you are. Where you are is simply where you are. It's not who you are. So wherever you are right now in your business, in your role as a mom or as a wife, as a friend, like if you're not where you want to be, you just need to know that that's just where you are right now. It's not who you are. And we all have the power to choose certain behaviors and certain mindsets and certain actions to change it, right? And I think sometimes when we're in those valley moments, it messes with our identity, right? And we start thinking, well, this is just who I am. And again, there's a whole lot of story behind that statement and how it impacted Dave, one of the Oola guys. But and I'm sure you might be able to find it on YouTube. And honestly, I'm probably going to ask them to come on the podcast. I had an opportunity to meet them and the CEO of the company, and just great guys. So I may invite them on. I probably have to do it separately. Maybe, I don't know. Their personalities are really, really fun. They play off each other really well. Dave is more of the high energy, funny comedian. And Troy was definitely more of the more serious numbers guy, strategy, type of thing. So anyway, those are not bad things. That's just who they are, right? Those are their gifts. So anyway, they kind of walk you through this, and they talk about getting to a healthy level of disgust in those key areas. Like you just get emotional when you think about, like, I'm so done with this. Right? Have you ever said that? Like, I'm so done with feeling bad every day because I'm eating the foods that I know are crap, or I'm so done with, being lazy in my business and seeing people go further and faster than me. And I want to be there. Like, you just have to get to that place, right? Like, no one can make you stop smoking or, decrease, the amount of food choices that are not good that you're putting in your body, or increase your exercise. Like, you have to kind of get to your own healthy level of disgust before you're going to actually take action. And, so when people were getting up there and sharing like what their Oola one was, like, you could see it in their mannerisms when they went up to the surfboard, some that just kind of easily placed it, and some literally like smacked it on there so hard. You could tell they're like, I'm so done with this. I'm done with this mindset. I'm done with this unhealthy behavior. Just done with it. And so you can totally do this same thing as you're thinking through some of the stuff I'm going to share with you today. Or maybe if you decide to get the book, and or maybe you want to go to Oolapalooza next year, I can definitely put a link to tickets for that in the show notes as well. But we just kind of got to get there. And so if there's an area of your life as you're kind of doing a life audit, or as you're revisiting your goals for 2023, and you're like, I'm so tired of coming back to the same area with the same goal, and I'm done with that. Like, I'm ready to actually put some action behind it. Maybe do the same thing. Like, maybe get a piece of paper or a sticky note or something and write it on there, and just stick it on your notebook. Stick it somewhere where you're going to see it every day and be like, okay, I'm disgusted by this and I'm ready to move on. And this is going to be my one thing that I focus on for 2023. So again, the 7 F's of life are fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun. And he shared some stats that were super interesting. So Troy, not Dave, he's the numbers guy. He shared some research and stats on these areas. And I wanted to share these with you because I thought they were pretty amazing. So the average adult, when it comes to finances, so finance is all things personal finance. The average adult spends $18,000 per year on non-essential impulse buying. $18,000 a year, y'all. And he even broke it down like to categories. So restaurants, drinks, and takeouts for the average adult is $574 per month. Mind blowing, right? Like, what would you do, or what could you do with that extra $18K in a year if you really looked at your budget and looked at your finances and stopped mindless spending or impulse buying? Isn't that crazy? The other stat was there's been a 25% increase in the prevalence of mental illness. I don't think any of us are shocked by that because of the couple of years that we've been through. Super sad though. 39% of us have gained weight in the pandemic. Again, I don't think that's a shocker to us because we were less active. We were probably inside. We were, feeding our feelings with all the things that are unhealthy. And then the other one he shared about family was 70 to 80% of Americans consider their family dysfunctional. 70 to 80% of Americans consider their families dysfunctional. That's pretty crazy. So for fun, and y'all know, I'm all about bringing the fun. I'm all about priorities and making you a priority and making sure you're on your calendar for fun and your personal passions in life. He said that we're the most overworked country in the world. On average, 40% of employees are thinking of leaving their job in the next 3 months. And that's because they're overworked. They're not finding those pockets of time for fun or pursuing their passions. So just really interesting to see those different areas. And he actually did an exercise in the room. And I want you to think about this for just a second. So this room was full of people who were there that are passionate about personal development. They're there to work on themselves, to work on personal and professional development. So he polled the whole room. And I think there was probably about 400 people in attendance at this event. It was really cool, y'all. It was inside the Wild Horse Saloon in Nashville. So it was was really, really fun. And they had live music to end each day with some incredible artists. But anyway, he handed out a piece of paper that had like 10 questions on it that was really geared towards these 7 areas of life. Maybe it was 7 questions, but like check yes or no if you have ever had an eating disorder or have one right now. If you have ever had anxiety or depression, if you've ever been in an abusive relationship, if you've ever been burned by a religious organization. I can't think of some of the other ones, but so he had everybody, you didn't write your name on the paper, but you just, checked yes or no. And then he had you fold it, and then he had you get up and pass it again and pass it again. So each person passed the piece of paper 4 times. And then he said, okay, based on the paper in front of you, this is someone else. This is not you, but I want, if they've answered yes to the question, I want you to stand. Oh my goodness, y'all. It was so eye-opening to see almost 90% of the room stand when he said, you struggle with anxiety and depression. And I would say a good 30%, 40% stood when he talked about ever been in an abusive relationship or currently in an abusive relationship. As a life coach, seeing some of these people stand on behalf of those in the room and the things they're struggling with, we have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to do to reach people. And we reach people by doing the work on ourselves and starting with us, right? Putting our own oxygen mask on first so that we can show people it's possible. So we can show people the systems and the tools and the things that we've used to create a life by design and not by default. He said that a couple of times, and I love that. So, and again, this was in a room with people who are actively working on themselves. Can you imagine if he had done the same thing in just a random restaurant of people? There would have been way more people standing up talking about anxiety and depression and all of that. It was just really, really eye-opening. So some other stats that he shared that were interesting, you'll find this interesting. The average person will spend 4 years of their life looking at a screen, computer screen, phone screen, TV screen, 4 years of their life looking at screens. And then he shared that 2,617 times a day, we are distracted by a beep, a notification. And so no wonder we have a hard time staying focused on our goals. And for someone like me who struggles with focus anyway, how much more time it takes to get back on task. So how can we remove some of the distractions? When you think about your goals and the places you want to go in 2023, how can you take that number down? 2,617 times a day you're being distracted. Our kids are being distracted. And we wonder why they're struggling in school. Just really, really eye-opening numbers. And he also said we have normalized things in our life that are bad. Like we have, and you're seeing this, we have normalized being in debt. We are normalizing the hustle culture that you have to work really hard all the time, 24/7, 365. We have normalized burnout. Like this is just how life is, the hamster wheel. He actually showed a video, and I don't know what the name of the video was, but it was a video of these, I don't even know why they use rats, but I guess rat race. Now it clicked. But they're chasing happiness. And so they're going through the subway and they're chasing money, right? And it shows the image of the rats chasing the money. And the money doesn't provide the happiness. And they move on to alcohol. That doesn't provide it. So they move on to the pills. That doesn't provide it. Then they move on to relationships or something, but just on that rat race. And we've normalized things like debt and social media that are bad habits and bad ways of doing life. We've normalized them. This was really fascinating. 8% of people in the world achieve their goals that they set. 8%, y'all. Think about your own goals and what your success rate is. And this is not to make you feel bad. This is right awareness. I'm all about awareness, because if we know where we are, then we can figure out where we want to go. And then we can figure out how we're going to get there, which was a theme actually of Oolapalooza and kind of this framework. But 8% of people in the world achieve the goals that they set. So I thought that was pretty crazy. So he did this exercise, and you've seen the exercise or heard me talk about the big rocks, putting the big rocks into, I think Stephen Covey was the one who first talked about this, where he's trying to show, time management and priorities. and he has a hurricane vase, and he puts the big rocks in, asks the class, is it full? And they're like, yes. And then he takes, the pebbles and puts the pebbles in. They kind of fill in the spaces where the big rocks are. And they ask them again, is it full? And they, like, I mean, yes, I think so. And then he throws the sand in, the sand kind of fills in more space. And then he asks them again. By this point, they're like, I don't really know because we've said yes and we were wrong. And then he takes water and pours it. And he asks them, what's the point of the illustration? And the class says, well, no matter what you have on your calendar, you can always fit one more thing in. And his point was, no, if you don't get your big rocks in first, you'll never get them in. So it's easy for us to get busy, right, with all the little things. But if we don't put those big rocks in, which are these 7 key areas of life, if we don't get them in first, prioritize those things first, then it's going to be really easy for us just to get busy in our life and in our day. But he actually took Skittles, which was really colorful. And he kind of did the same concept with Skittles and oranges. And then he had kind of shared an example of, the men have an average of 76 years of life, women 81 years of life. And so he has, this vase that has all these marbles in there. So he put in like how many, for him, total was 76 and then his age. And so he takes that amount of marbles out, and then you're able to see in the vase, like, how many years do we have left, right? On average, again, no one's saying you're going to die at 76 or I'm going to die at 81 as a female, but that's the average. And then he has the one. So he has the jar with the years lived and the years left. And then he takes the one for this year and he puts it in between the two. And he's like, this is the one marble I can impact, right? I can't do anything about what I did before or what's moving forward, but right now, what can I impact right now? I'm like, And I'd heard this talked about on, what's his name? Totally drawing a blank on the author of the book talks about the years of impact too. I'm totally blanking, but I'll put it in the show notes. I can see he wrote Story Brand. It's gone. It'll come back to me, but kind of the same thing, like having a visual of how much time on average we actually have left for impact in your family, impact in your businesses, impact in your church, in your community. Like, it's pretty eye-opening. We know life is fragile and we've seen that a lot over the last couple of years, but when you have that visual of like how much time you have left potentially, and then know that could change overnight, it gets you moving, right? It gets you focused on what matters most. So I wanted to share that with you. So he had a jar, again, the visual, a jar with current years lived, a jar with marbles left, and then put your current year in the middle to help you to live intentionally, because it's the only thing you can control right now. So I love that. They also talked about the difference in dreams and goals, like your dreams are the what and the why, and they come from the heart, not from the mind. And we don't allow ourselves to dream very big or very often. We get straight into the goals and, SMART goals and how am I going to achieve this? But we need to give ourselves some time. And right now is a great time to do that. Like what are some of your dreams? If you could not fail, if you were in a stress-free, stressless life, right, in the perfect world, what would your dreams be for the 7 F's of your life? Faith, family, finance, fitness, field, which is your career, and fun. What would your dreams be for those? Most dream small and set goals big. We dream small and safe, but we set these big goals. So be sure to be thinking about what those dreams are. And they kind of did a modified version of SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, accountable. That was what they put for the A for their SMART goals: accountable, realistic, and time. I think I love that modified version because y'all know I'm huge on accountability. It's how I get things done. It's how I stay on track. I have a core group of people that I have given permission to hold me accountable, and the same for them. So maybe that's one thing you'd be thinking about as you're looking at your goals and your dreams for 2023. Who are those people that can help keep you accountable? who can be your support system. A lot of times we can choose friends, but just make sure it's the friend that is not afraid to hold you accountable. That's going to tell you the things that you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I'm trying to think what else he talked about. They went into each group, each of the 7 F's, talking about finance. They actually have a program called the Green Gap. You'll see that when you go on their website, which is really helpful for you getting a budget every single month. If budgets are not something that you're interested in, it's not something you get super passionate about, which that's me, then this would be a great opportunity for you to kind of see their simple system for that and help identify the gap. Basically, there's, I guess, 5 ways you budget every month for the next month. You identify the gap, maximize the gap, apportion the gap, and then repeat monthly. So that's kind of their simple 5 steps. And you'll be able to see that when you go onto their website. The really cool thing about the whole process is based on questions that they asked you in the little workbook, like they kind of created this wheel and you draw a line through the 7 F's and kind of how you rated yourself. And it was really cool to see this visual of, do you have a really clunky wheel right now? Because there's some areas that are out of alignment, right? You're not operating at the level that you want to, or do you have a pretty smooth wheel right now? And he talked about the seasons. I thought this was really, really good. The seasons of life, the summer and the spring, the winter and the fall, and how we all go through all the 4 seasons. And so if you're in a summer, great, celebrate that. But just like with summer, we know fall and winter is coming, right? And so how we live out these 7 areas of life and set goal and are intentional with our time and how we focus on that is key in those different seasons. And I can tell you for sure, I have been kind of in a fall and a winter season, and I'm starting to move into spring and summer, even though like realistically, we're in the winter, getting ready to go into winter. Personally and professionally, I kind of went through, this year kind of a fall and winter, and now I'm coming into my spring and summer. So it's really exciting to kind of see it that way because it helps you to know that seasons change. And if you're in a winter season right now in your life and your business, it's going to change. It can change. And it'll change by how we choose the behaviors and the mindsets and the people we choose to surround ourselves with. So a couple other key concepts they talked about was the valve, the valve, what pumps you up? What pumps you up? Out of the 7 key areas, what are the things that you wake up excited about pursuing? Finance is not one that I'll wake up pumped up about pursuing. And then what's your hub? Like what's the foundation when you think about a wheel and the spikes or spokes are, they're plugged into a hub. So what's your foundation? Is it image? Is it things? Is it money? Is it power? Is it self? Is it legacy or is it God? And so they kind of help you figure out, okay, what's your hub and be really honest about what your hub is. And then lastly, Oola blockers, they call them blockers and accelerators. So what are your blockers? And they give examples, like fear, self-sabotage, laziness. I can't think of all of them right here off the top of my head, but what are the things that are going to block? When you look at your goals for this year, what are the blockers that you need to be aware of and that you need to work through? And they have a whole process on how you do that. And then what are your Oola accelerators? What are the things that will help accelerate your goals for 2023? So really fascinating company, concept. Guys, they just have hearts for people and helping people to find that balance in an unbalanced world to help them to pursue the things that matter most. And really, it's funny, they kind of started talking about in the beginning, like, this is about you, but then it's not really about you, right? So it's about you these 2 days for you to learn and to grow and to really take on this process. But then it's not really about you. It's about how you can impacting others, right? It's really about the other people, the people that we know are dealing with depression, anxiety, addictions, abuse, just life. Like life is just hard right now. How can we be that light? But we have to get lit up first, right? We have to put on our own oxygen mask first. And he talked about the heart and, how the heart is what pumps, blood out to the rest of the body. But he asked us, he said, but where does the heart pump the blood back to first? before it goes to the rest to the body. Where does it pump first? And it pumps it back to itself first. So then it can flow to the rest of the body. And I love that analogy, and I totally just butchered it, that example, and I'll share in more detail. But, I was an exercise science major, and I never thought about it in that way. When I'm talking to you as a mompreneur and I'm telling you that you have to make yourself a priority, it's not all about you, but you do need to take care of yourself as a mompreneur so that you can overflow, right, back to the other parts of your life. So what are those things in 2023 that you can do daily to pump blood back to you, to the heart, to the source of the energy and nutrition and where everything flows through? What can you do daily? What can you do weekly? What can you go ahead and set goals around to help make sure that you're pumping blood back to yourself so that you can overflow amazing amounts of love, amazing amounts of support, amazing amounts of strategy and purpose back to the other areas of your life? So I'm going to end with that, and just really hope this was helpful for you to think about. Go ahead and start thinking about it now. I have a huge list of Turquoise Talk guests. They're going to be coming on the show between now and really the beginning of the year, going through, those typical New Year's resolutions. How I feel about resolutions. I'll definitely be doing an episode on that, but just helping to support these 7 areas of your life, helping you to hear their perspective on finance and on field and on faith and on family and fitness and fun, helping you to hear their stories, what's worked for them. And maybe you could grab some encouragement and grab some of their courage to pursue some of these things, even if they're in the middle of a winter season. So I will put all the links to the things that I talked about in the show notes so you can check it out. And yeah, I think I'm going to ask the guys to come on the podcast. And you know that the answer is always no if you don't ask. So I'm going to ask, and maybe they'll say yes. Maybe they'll say yes. Maybe they will say no. But I haven't really had anybody say no, they didn't want to come on the podcast. So anyway, so if there's a guest that you want me to ask, I'm not afraid to ask. I'm really not. So if there's someone you want to hear that you really think would speak to this audience, let me know, and I will definitely put an ask out there to them, and maybe they can be on the show in 2023. Thank you so much for continuing to support the show, to follow the show, to share the show with your friends and family. I'd love to know what you thought of this episode. Do you have your dreams and goals written out? Do you need more help with that? We can definitely do another episode specifically to that to help you get ready for 2023. But now is the time. Don't enter January with a blank slate. Now is the time to be thinking about those things so you can start January with momentum and focus. And you know where you are, like right now, you know where you want to go, and you know how you're going to get there. And I'm here to support you. And y'all know I'm believing in you always, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.